week we're gonna have acai bowls. I like to let this defrost just enough where you can break it into a couple of pieces. If you can't, then run it under water for a couple of seconds, you'll be able to. It blends up better if it's broken into a few pieces. Now this does stain, so I usually try to open it under the sink. All you really need is a puree packet. I like to use the unsweetened one, and banana with a little bit of water. That's all you need. Everything else is extra. It would be pretty if I use it as a topper, but I'm actually gonna put it in the acai bowl so it'll make it a little bit creamier. And then instead of using water, I'm gonna use almond milk, and that's only because this needs to be used up. So here it is, all plated up. I used the freeze-dried berries, some shredded coconut, the frozen cherries, my basil seeds, and some almonds. Now I put this in a really large bowl. There's enough for another large bowl this size. So I would say one pack would make 4 or 5 smaller bowls or 2 larger bowls. This is a nutritional powerhouse. This is so yummy. I make it like ice cream consistency. This is so good. I'm gonna make a snack mix. This is some Crispix cereal that's been sitting in the pantry for a really long time. It's not getting eaten. And I'm gonna take stuff that nobody's touching and turn it into something yummy. I have a little bit of chocolate chips, dried cherries from Azure, vanilla yogurt covered raisins, Brazil nuts, dried mango, roasted and salted sunflower seed, and the Thompson raisins. So after I dumped everything in, give it a shake. And now we have a yummy trail mix. Now that it's all mixed up like this, it's easier for us to grab a handful as we're heading out the door. We have some ground meat with taco seasoning, these tostadas that we want to use up, some leftover tortillas from when we had the quesadillas, sriracha spicy taco sauce, the sweet heat Tabasco, the rest of the cheddar cheese, freeze-dried tomatoes, a can of refried beans, a little bit of salsa, some red onion, and black olives. Here's a look at my dinner. I layered it with refried beans, meat, cheese, sauce, onion, more sauce, and a little bit of freeze-dried cilantro. In the refried beans, I added the salsa, the hot sauce, the sriracha, plus some onion and garlic powder to the refried beans, and that's what I put on the bottom layer. Tonight for dinner, we're gonna have soup and salad. We're gonna use turnip greens from the yard, that little bit of leftover ham that we had from the last time we cooked the turnip greens with the ham. I keep calling this ham because it looks like ham, but it's honey roasted turkey. I have a little brown rice left, also from that time when we cooked this. And then we're gonna add some black olives, this little salad pack that I've had in the refrigerator that came with some other salad. It looks still good, so I'm gonna taste it and see. This is, I think, a feta cheese, a crouton, and we have a few of those other croutons too we may add, artichoke hearts, and a few shredded beets, some boiled eggs, couple baby bell cheeses that I'm going to cut up, a little bit of purple onion. For the salad dressing, I'm going to use a combination of garlic olive oil, lemon, apple cider vinegar, my fermented honey garlic, and the salt pepper garlic blend. And then for the soup, we're gonna have this last butternut squash soup. It's not enough to feed all of us for tonight's meal because this is gonna be kind of light. So I'm gonna get rid of these 2 cans of cut sweet potato yams. I'm gonna mash them and heat them up with the soup. It'll just stretch the soup and make it enough for us. This is gonna be supper tonight. Here's our soup and salad all plated up. I added almond milk, cinnamon, nutmeg, and pumpkin pie spice, and I topped with more pumpkin pie spice. And because of the almond milk and the sweet potatoes, the color has changed. This soup is fantastic. I first had turnip greens raw probably about 4 days ago for lunch. I didn't realize what I had been missing. If I'd have realized how good they were, we'd have been eating this the whole pantry challenge. I love fresh salads. It's one of my go-tos whenever I have access to the greens. It's kind of like a mix between arugula, spinach, and kale all together, if I had to say, which to me, that would be my perfect green. So maybe I'm the last one to try this raw. I've always eaten cooked greens. I've just never eaten them raw. Let me know. Do you like mustard greens raw? Have you ever tried them? Yeah, I always thought they were going to be too spicy or too tough, but they're not. They're just good. Dinner tonight, fast and easy. Tonight for dinner, we are going to have pizza bagels. We have frozen homemade pizza sauce that I pulled out of the freezer, bagels that had originally come out of the freezer, some leftover mozzarella that needs to be used up, and some pepperoni that had come out of the freezer. 15 minutes later, our pizza bagels are ready. I put them all on a really big baking sheet, and I baked in the oven at 350 for 15 minutes. Simple and easy. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have a beef soup. We're using this beef stew meat that's 1.2 pounds. It's been defrosted. We're also gonna use some mixed vegetables, a handful of gold potatoes, some Cajun seasoning, a little bit of brown sugar, an onion, a can of whole peeled tomatoes in the juice, a can of beef broth, and 1 bag of frozen corn. All of this stuff is stuff that I wanna use up. And spring is quickly approaching. We're about to say goodbye to all of our winter soups, and I haven't had a beef soup yet, so tonight's the night. I'm not gonna brown this meat first before I add anything else. So I'm not gonna brown the onion, I'm not gonna brown the meat. I will, however, season this meat before I put it in the pot, and then I'm also gonna season the water in the soup. I'll start with 2 quarts of water plus all of this. Just let it boil for a couple of hours and you're gonna have a good soup. The soup has been cooking for about an hour. You can see how much liquid has cooked out of it. So I'm gonna add about another quart of water, and I'll let it continue to cook for another hour or so. Here's a look at our beef and vegetable soup all served up. We served it over white rice. Let's give this a taste. This is very good and many people will love this. I prefer a fatty beef or beef with bones. I would happily eat this, but it's not my personal favorite to make. Only because the beef was extremely lean. There was no fat, no bones. The taste is really good and it doesn't have anything to do with the taste. It's just the texture preference for me. And I know the wonderful nutrition that comes from the bones and the fat of a healthy animal that's slow cooked. That's the difference for me. So I'm very thankful to have this, but this is not my #1 go-to. Tonight for dinner, we are gonna have beef stew. This will probably be our last stew of the winter, and I don't have carrots, but I do have sweet potatoes, and I have a large turnip that needs to be used up. So this is gonna be a sweet potato turnip beef stew with just a couple of little baby gold potatoes as well. A large onion, Cajun seasoning, 2 quarts of water, and a half a jar of roux. I'm using Carrie's roux today. It doesn't expire until January of 2025. The seal must not be great because the outside of the label has gotten very nasty. It's supposed to be that bright yellow color and the oil has leaked. So I definitely want to use this. This is a little over a pound of beef stew meat that's been already cut up. When making any type of Cajun gumbo or stew, it's very important to season it well. Now, if you don't like spice, you don't have to use Cajun seasoning, but make sure you use enough salt and pepper. I'm gonna season this meat thoroughly, and then I'm also gonna season the water, and I'm gonna cut all this up, put it in the pot, and let it boil like a soup, but in the end, we'll end up with a beef stew. Also, I like to dissolve store-bought roux in as little of water as possible before you add all the other ingredients. Just got the stew going, and I realized I forgot to take out frozen bell pepper, so I just pulled out a couple of pieces, and that's also gonna go in the pot. Dinner tonight, beef stew with turnips, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. Let's give it a taste. If you're interested in seeing how I make stew, I'll put a link to one of my other videos. I'm gonna taste that sweet potato and the turnip. Let's have a taste. Great combination, the turnips and the sweet potato together. I say this every time, but every stew has a unique taste. It's really good. You should give it a try. Hi friends! Tonight for dinner we are gonna have Autumn Harvest creamy pasta sauce with ground meat and the red lentil penne pasta that I've been wanting to get rid of. Cajun seasoning and an onion. Fast and simple. It'll be ready in 20 to 30 minutes. So the other night when we had sausage on these deli rolls, we only used 5 rolls, so we had 3 left. I like to take extra rolls like this and turn it into garlic bread. And so I'm gonna make some garlic cheesy bread. I'm gonna use the same recipe I used for the Valentine video. Here's a look at our Autumn Harvest pasta. Dinner tonight was ready in under 30 minutes. Pasta and cheese is always good.